After finished construction in 1803, the Middlesex Canal was the first real canal of the United States. It inspired canals like the Erie Canal, and it is here in Billerica, Massachusetts. Today we're at a museum in Billerica looking at the Middlesex Canal. Even though it started and ended in the 19th century, it's still operational a lot today to commemorate the canals became really one of the major ways that goods and other things were shipped. Kind of think about how highways are today. Canals were super highways of the 1700s and 1800s, even into the 19th century. However, they were put out of business by railroads as they became faster, just shifting quicker. But for a while, towns grew up along the canal as they were able to ship and move goods. It was just easier to do. So the Middlesex Canal opened up the interior of the United States, like around here, Wilmington, Woburn area, and the interior of New Hampshire to Boston commerce. So some towns such as Woburn, Wilmington, Lowell were big parts in expanding the general market to other towns. Unlike the big ships of today, a lot of the boats of the 18th and 19th century were honestly just like this. So they were mostly made out of wood, and they were very small. They couldn't hold the capacity that they could today, but they were usually just meant for commerce and people alone, and a lot of just materials and stuff like that, because a lot of textile mills and material mills were made, especially in New England, because New England was the powerhouse of the country back then. And these wooden boats would just carry the bare minimum materials, and they'd make it super fast to bring munitions or textiles or cotton or anything like that from one area to the other, so they can actually bring it into the American industry. And because of the Middlesex Canal and a lot of superhighways of the day, the United States can call itself the powerhouse that it is today. And if it wasn't for this small origin, then none of us would be where we are today.
Drain here in a minute. That's its maximum height upstream. The drain on downstream end is just a drain, but it's much lower, so you see the difference in the water height. And the center part being the lock. Water a little up to here. If you want a scale drawing of the lock, scale drawing. So you can see, I think, with the scale, the guy moving the handle before he can go. You'd have to have the water the proper height, so the gates would be balanced and get open. To that end, the water out of the box on this side. And that. There's that.
How far between were the locks? I know they had a bunch of them, but was there generally like a distance between each one?
No, they'll put it where they would need it. The lock will raise or lower a boat about 8.5 feet. So when you get to a place like Woburn, where over at Horn Pond, there's a 50-foot rise in the land there, they had 6 locks.
Oh wow!
They had 3 pairs. And another place where they had 3 locks was Middlesex Village. It was part of Chelmsford back then, part of Lowell today. They had the boats would come in off of the river and sit in the turning basin and then be raised up for the 3 to the 3 locks, to the same height as the canal all the way into, well, into North Billerica. And then at the pond, there'd be a lock on each side of it in case the water level was too high. You didn't want the water rushing down the canal, so the guard locks would prevent that from happening. And as you go down toward Wilmington, there'd be 1 or 2. Nichols Lock, I guess, is in Wilmington, just the other side of the Aqueduct. There's another one further down, and beyond that, I'm really not that sure. I know the number of locks, I think it's 20, something like that. It's listed over on one of the panels over here. The number of bridges as well, and the length of it is 26 miles to change. I don't know what else to. Hit me with another question.
Oh, sorry.
No, I don't know anything.
So, like, how many towns does the Middlesex Canal go through? I know there's a bunch, but like, I forget how far it actually goes. Like, I know it opens up Boston, but.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I was going to mention Charlestown, right across the Charles River, where the duck boats go in today, where the highway interchange is. That was the Charlestown Mill Pond, and that was the end of the canal. There was another canal that started over on the Boston side and went across town there. But the Charles was tidal at that point. This has been a dam there for 100 years or more now, but it was tidal back then, so they would put a tide lock on the end of the canal so they could get into the Charles River, and they used a rope so to cross the river like so you just hand over hand the boat from one side of the Charles River to the other, and when you get to one of these floats, you grab the rope on the other side and haul yourself over to the next boat. Yeah, they didn't do that with the packet boats for the passengers. There was a bridge, and they'd take a horse-drawn vehicle across the bridge into town.
And the boats were generally pretty small, right? Like the ones that they were bringing through. Like, there wasn't any of those big passenger boats.
Right. There was the limit on the canal was 9.5 feet wide, and somewhere between 40 and 70 feet long. I guess the model of that red and blue packet boat over there is about a quarter size.
Interesting. And
if the canal's 30 feet wide and the boats are 9.5 and it's 20 feet wide at the bottom, there's room for either to go both ways, except when you get to a lock that'd only be wide enough for one boat, and usually an aqueduct. They did build some that have to, like in Medford, they'd have to widen it. So the towns split apart since then, because you'd have a town like Chelmsford, and you'd have different sections of town, and as they grew up, people would say, I don't want to spend all Sunday morning at the Congregational Church over in the town center. I want our own parish or church here, and we've got enough people to support it, so we'll split off, and we'll become a town that way, pretty much.
And that's kind of like how Wilmington became a town, because I believe it was part of Woburn for a while, and then.
That may be true. I don't know. I'm really not.
So even though these little towns may be small today, there are definitely big names back in the day. So along these towns, if you were to cut through, if you wanted a bridge, or if you needed something to go actually over the canal, you'd have these aqueducts made, like this one right here. So how these aqueducts were made is they were built out of big stone, and they provide enough support for the actual horse-drawn carriages and other commerce to actually make it over. And although a lot of them are kind of run down today, there's definitely still some later, and we're going to show you one in Wilmington, Massachusetts.
Alright, so this is an example of an aqueduct. This is the one in Wilmington, Massachusetts. Right here. So up here you can see where the remains of a bridge that used to go over the aqueducts to allow for foot traffic. Down there you see the water it was much higher back when these were in use, and the bridge to my right was most likely not there. As with the higher water, the boats would come through here, and then the foot traffic would come over. The boats to pass through. Fortunately, the bridge is no longer here, or we would walk across, but you see where it would have been.
That was our tour of the Middlesex Canal Museum and Aqueduct. Thank you very much for watching. We just want to say thank you to the curators at the Middlesex Canal Museum in Billerica. Just thank you for letting us record in there. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.